What have you got up your sleeves?
Well, we've got The Anarchy, which is a TV series adaptation of William Dalrymple's epic saga on the history of the East India Company. It's one of those books that you just can't put down.
Yeah.
And when I first heard that William was working on this book, I actually found out about it a few months before it was going to be published. So I reached out to him immediately. He was kind enough to give me a manuscript. And I read through it just chugged through it in one sitting, and realized
Are you a
that this
history
was.
buff?
I am a huge history buff. I am, and it's
Because
just
William Dalrymple cannot be done in a day.
well, it was one of those things which just sucks you in because I've always been very interested by the history of colonialism and of course the Mughal rule, sort of before that, and the way William writes, he writes with such drama, and the way he treats his characters, he just makes them live and breathe. And so I reached out to him instantly after that and told him I'd love to take on the rights. And after a bit of back and forth, because he wanted to know what the vision was, and we realized that we had exactly the same vision. It really is a story that has to be told with that epic scope and scale, the way that the Game of Thrones or the Crown have been told. And I think I've always had the ambition of being able to take our content and reach out to the world with it. And this is a story that we should be telling ourselves.
So this is going to be mounted for a global audience.
This is going to be mounted for a global audience.
And you've managed to bag a big name to do that for you.
So we've got Stephen Frears coming on board. I used to watch films like High Fidelity and Dangerous Liaison when I was, in college. And to imagine that the director of those epics is now going to be actually helming The Anarchy is just...
And how did that come about?
Well, our partner's WIP actually, which is a US production company. They've made shows like Mayor of Easttown and Dickinson. Paul Lee, who runs WIP, was running ABC when I was at Disney and running India. And we stayed in touch for a long time. And then he started WIP and I started Roy Kapur Films. And we were chatting about what we could do together. And when I told him about these rights, he said, wow, that's something I'd love to collaborate on.
Right.
So we got together, and through Paul and through WIP, we were able to reach out to Stephen. And he knows William, incidentally.
Okay.
And that helped. And he'd heard of the book, he read it and loved it, and that's how he came on board.
So when do we finally see this being converted into reality on screen?
Well, we're ready with our materials now. We're ready with the writing, and I think the next stage really is to figure out the right home for it, so the right platform. That's a process that's ongoing. Right?
So have talks begun with the Netflixes and the HBOs of the world?
Talks have just begun. A little too early to sort of get into details around that, but it is exciting.